3 days after I wired $31,000 to the venue, my daughter's future mother-in-law sent word through my daughter that the rehearsal dinner seating was reserved for contributors only. I was 52 years old, kneeling on cold concrete under my neighbor's kitchen sink with a flashlight clamped between my teeth. I finished tightening the fitting. I wiped my hands on my jeans. Then I read the message again. The way you read something when you already understood it on the first pass, and you're just making sure you're not inventing reasons to be angry. I wasn't inventing anything. I didn't reply. I looked at the time. The bank opened in 10 hours and 30 minutes. And there was something about the Thursday transfer my daughter's future mother-in-law didn't know yet. Before I take you back there, take a second and hit like, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I read every one of them. My name is Gil Harmon. I'm 52 years old. I spent 21 years as a rural mail carrier in central Ohio, the kind of route where you know which houses have dogs that actually bite and which ones are all bark. And you know whose mailbox lists to the left, because the post heaved in the freeze-thaw cycle 3 Januaries ago, and nobody ever got around to resetting it. I retired early, a shoulder that finally gave out after too many winters loading hampers, and now I do handyman work in a town of about 9,000 people. I know which widow on Prentice Street has been putting off the porch rail, which rental on Concord has a furnace, making a noise it shouldn't be making. I go where I'm needed. I don't make a production of it. My wife understood that about me. She died 3 years ago. Ovarian cancer, 14 months from the first diagnosis to the end, and almost every version of my life now starts with her, because that's where all the important decisions were made. We were married 27 years. She was the talker. I was the one who showed up and fixed the thing. If someone at a cookout asked what I'd been up to, I'd say, same old, and redirect the conversation. She'd wait about 10 seconds, and then tell the whole story, the right way, the version that included the part I'd left out because it seemed like bragging. She had that gift, and I never once told her how much it was worth. After she passed, I found something in the fireproof box under our bed. It was behind the insurance policies and the deed to the house, in a manila envelope I didn't recognize. 31 series savings bonds. Paper ones, the kind the Treasury stopped issuing in 2012. She had been buying them one at a time since the year our daughter was born. Birthday money, Christmas bonus, the occasional tax refund. She never spent $1 of found money on herself. Every bond was made out in our daughter's name. The total at current redemption value was just under $19,000. She never told me. I think she knew I'd have said we didn't need to do that, which is exactly why she didn't. I kept them in that box for 2 years. They weren't mine to decide about. Then my daughter called me on a Tuesday night in October. She and her fiancé had found a venue they loved, an old renovated carriage house 40 minutes outside Columbus. Stone foundation, oak floors, tall windows looking out over a pond. One date left in June. Another couple was circling the same date. The deposit to hold it was $8,400, due by Friday. Her fiancé's family had indicated they'd cover catering and flowers. But the deposit needed to come from someone now, and the two of them were still carrying his graduate school loans. She wasn't asking me. She was telling me about it the way she'd learned to tell me things since her mother died, carefully, without asking for anything, trying not to make me feel like I had to be the one to fix it. I let her finish. Then I told her I'd take care of it. She said, "Dad, it's $8,000. I said, "I know what it is." I didn't sleep that night. I sat at the kitchen table with the bonds spread in front of me and a legal pad next to them. I started writing numbers. Catering, $8,500 to $120 a head. Photographer, $2,500 minimum. Dress, alterations, florals, open bar. I stopped when the list hit $28,000. Then I thought about the CD at the credit union, matured 2 years ago. Sitting. $12,000 I'd been telling myself was for a new roof. The roof could wait another winter. Next morning, I was at the credit union at 8 o'clock. The woman behind the counter has worked there 11 years and knows my account the way I know the route out on CR 47. She looked at me over her reading glasses when I told her what I needed. All at once. "Please." The branch manager came out. It took 40 minutes. There was a small redemption penalty on the bonds. Maybe $60 total, and after everything cleared, I had $31,040 in the account. I had them wire $8,400 directly to the venue's escrow that morning to secure the date. I asked them to hold the rest as a cashier's check. Then I drove home and thought about it for 3 days. On the fourth day, I called the venue and got their wire instructions. Ray Tilton, who manages the credit union branch and whose father I delivered mail to for 16 years, processed the remaining transfer, $22,640. He turned the screen toward me to confirm the memo line. I typed 7 words. For my daughter's wedding, with love. He hit send. After 3 on a Thursday, he said quietly, "It won't move until Monday. The receiving bank's in Columbus, and they've got a county holiday." I nodded. I took my confirmation slip. I folded it into my shirt pocket and drove back to a job on Miller Road, where a garage door opener had been shorting since October. I didn't tell my daughter. I figured the money would say what it needed to say when it needed to say it. My daughter's future mother-in-law runs an interior design firm out of Columbus. 17 years in business, the kind of operation with a logo and a website with a mood board section. She is not a bad person. I want to say that clearly and have it stay said. She is a woman who knows how to organize a room, and when she decides a room needs organizing, she organizes it the way a river organizes a valley, not because anyone asked, but because that's what rivers do. She started a group chat called the Holloway Crew, 6 days after the venue was booked. 22 people. She sent approximately 30 messages a day, color palettes, linen samples, a vision board that appeared to be a photograph of other photographs. In 4 months, I sent 2 messages. One was a thumbs up on the invitation mock-up. The other was a question about the ceremony start time that never got answered, because the chat moved to centerpiece dimensions within 90 seconds. I wasn't sitting at home feeling wounded about centerpieces. I was working. I read that chat, the way I read road signs in counties I'm not driving through. Then in January, she posted a photograph. A framed display, maybe 2 feet square, gold vinyl lettering across the top, those who made this possible. Below it, 15 names. Each one had a small note beside it. Catering coordination, floral sponsorship, rehearsal dinner hosting. She wrote underneath it, "We want everyone who gave to feel truly seen." I scrolled past it on my way to bed. I didn't look at the names. That's on me. 3 months later, on a Thursday night in April, I was under my neighbor's kitchen sink with a flashlight in my teeth and water dripping on my neck from a supply line that had been losing its pressure since his hip replacement. He's 71. Some things you wait for the homeowner to get around to, and some things you just go do yourself. My phone buzzed against the cabinet. I finished the fitting. Then I climbed out and sat on the kitchen floor and read what my daughter had sent. It started with, "I'm so sorry, Dad." The rehearsal dinner, 2 weeks out, was reserved for immediate family and contributors. Her future mother-in-law had finalized the seating. There was a screenshot, 5 tables, 40 names in small gray type. I zoomed in with 2 fingers. My daughter's godmother. Not there. My oldest friend Lou, who drove my wife to her last 3 infusions, when I couldn't leave a job site, and who brought her soup from a diner on Route 40 because she said it was the only thing that didn't make her stomach hurt. Not there. My wife's youngest sister, who has called my daughter every Sunday evening since she was 15 years old. Not there. The woman whose sink I was currently fixing, who watched my daughter for 2 summers when she was 9 and 10 so I could pull double roots. Not there. My name wasn't there, but I'd stopped expecting that 20 seconds into looking. I sat on the cold linoleum for a while. My neighbor came in and offered me a glass of water. I drank it. Then I drove home and sat in my truck in my own driveway for 40 minutes. Not to think. I'd already thought everything there was to think. I was waiting for the part of me that wanted to apologize for existing to go quiet. At 10:47, my daughter called. She sounded like she'd rehearsed what she was about to say. "Dad, I know how this looks. I want you to know I'm not okay with it." I asked if she'd known before the message came through. "Quiet, Raid's mom said it would be easier coming from me." I looked at the dashboard. A moth was circling the dome light. "Did you know your godmother wasn't on the list?" I didn't see the final seating until this afternoon. I believed her. "Dad, you know how she is. I can't fight every single thing. If I fight everything, we don't get to the wedding." I had one question that had been sitting in my chest for 2 hours. I asked it. "Does she think I haven't contributed?" 4 seconds. "I don't think she knows what you've done." That wasn't cruelty. That was accurate. She didn't know, and my daughter didn't know. I'd made sure of it, the way I made sure of everything, by doing it quietly and assuming the result would speak for itself. Okay, I said, get some sleep. Dad. Sleep, I said. We'll talk. I hung up. I opened my banking app and pulled up the wire, still showing pending transmission. Thursday after the cutoff. Holiday weekend, the receiving bank hadn't processed it. There was still a window. At 8:50 the next morning, I was outside the credit union, before the lobby lights came on. Ray Tilton saw me through the glass and unlocked the door himself. He pulled up the account. The wire was still in transit. Columbus Bank had been closed for the county holiday. They hadn't accepted the funds. Can it be recalled? He took a breath through his nose. Under federal wire rules, we can submit a recall before final settlement. We haven't transmitted final. A pause. 8 or 9 times out of 10, the receiving bank honors it. I'm going to be straight with you. What's the fee? $30. But you sign a hold harmless. If the other party comes after us claiming they relied on the transfer, that's on you. I read the form, it wasn't long. Submit it, I said. He submitted it. I had until sometime that afternoon to find out if it worked. I went to work. There was a rental property on Concord Street with a furnace making a sound it shouldn't have been making since February. Cracked blower belt. I replaced it. I was cleaning up by 11:30 when Lou pulled into the driveway with 2 coffees. Lou has been my closest friend since we were 19, working the same summer warehouse job, neither of us talking much and somehow ending up friends because of it. He doesn't ask if something's wrong, he just appears. He set a coffee on my van's bumper and started handing me tools. We worked 20 minutes before either of us said a word. Then I told him all of it. The bonds. What my wife had done. One every year, every birthday, every Christmas. The credit union. Ray Tilton. The text from my daughter. The table chart. His own name not on it. The bank that morning. 8 or 9 out of 10. Lou kept stripping wire. When I finished, he set his pliers down and looked at the furnace instead of me. They took your wife's sister off the list. They did. Huh. Another minute passed. What are you going to do with it when it comes back? I opened my mouth and nothing came out. I had spent 14 hours thinking about stopping that wire. I had not thought about what followed. What a man does with $31,000 he took out of his dead wife's savings bonds and pulled back from his daughter's wedding. I don't know, I said. Lou nodded like that was exactly the right answer. Stopping it is easy, he said. Figuring out what it means, that's the job. He picked up his pliers. At 2:53 that afternoon, my phone buzzed on the van's dashboard. Wire recall confirmed. Funds returned to originating account. Minus $30. I sat in the driver's seat. I want to tell you, I felt something clean. What I felt was like a man who had just carried furniture back up 4 flights of stairs. The money was in my account again, and it had never been about the money. Here's the part I hadn't said yet, and it matters. When we toured the venue back in February, there was a contract signing at a farm table by the back window. The venue coordinator, a woman named Fern Alcott, who has done this for 22 years and carries a binder the way a surgeon carries a kit, laid out 2 pages and indicated where to sign. My daughter's future mother-in-law signed event planning contact on the first line without reading it. Then she slid the binder toward me and tapped the page with 1 fingernail. Right there, Gil, just a formality. I was in a barn full of people who were all happy. My daughter was happy. There was a momentum and a noise level, and I did the thing I always do in rooms like that. I did not make a fuss. I signed my name. Above my signature, in print small enough that you'd need to stop and mean to read it, was a line I didn't read. Financially responsible party, balance and damages. 2 signatures, 2 entirely different jobs. Fern handed me a business card on the way out. Any questions about the financial side, call me direct. I thanked her and put the card in my wallet behind my health insurance card. It sat there 41 days. That night I took out a legal pad and wrote a letter. Not to my daughter's future mother-in-law, not to my daughter, to Fern Alcott. I rewrote it 5 times. The final version was 4 sentences. Miss Alcott, I am formally withdrawing as financially responsible party on the Harmon Daily contract for June 21st, effective today. Please designate a replacement per your contract terms. I have copied my daughter on this message. I'm available by phone if anything is needed. I put my daughter on the copy, not her future mother-in-law, because her future mother-in-law wasn't the responsible party. Fern was the coordinator. The contract was the contract. The only correct desk for that sentence was the one belonging to the woman who kept the binder. I hit send at 9:11 on a Friday night. For 5 days, nothing happened. The group chat discussed whether the centerpieces should be eucalyptus or greenery filler. And I want you to understand that this question was treated with the same weight as a structural calculation. Someone posted a countdown graphic. 49 days. Nobody called. My daughter texted once, just Dad. And I wrote back, I'm okay, give it time. On Tuesday morning, Fern sent one email to every party on the venue file. No tone, no adjectives, just procedure. The responsible party of record withdrew as of April 19th. Per Section 8, a replacement must be designated within 10 business days, with proof of financial capacity. If no replacement is received by April 29th, the event date will be released to the waiting list. My daughter called within 15 minutes. Dad, what does this mean? It means what it says. The money? Did you take it back? Yes. A long silence. All of it. Yes. I heard her sit down. Dad, we've already paid deposits on the photographer and the florist. Those came out of your account. That's yours no matter what. That was never mine. Another pause. Why are you doing this? I'd had 5 days to find the right sentence. Because I didn't want to keep paying for a chair at a table that doesn't have my name on it. I let that sit. Your mother's savings bought something. I want to decide what. She started crying, not angry, the other kind. I didn't know about the money, Dad. I know, that's on me more than anyone. Tell me, she said, tell me all of it. So I told her. The bonds, what her mother had done, one every year since she was born, every birthday, every Christmas bonus. The fireproof box, the credit union, Ray Tilton, the recall. The $31,000 that was back in my account now, minus $30 and 2 years of decisions I should have made out loud. She was quiet a long time. Those were Mom's bonds. Yes. Why didn't you tell me? Because I thought the money would speak for itself, I said. Your mother used to tell me that was wrong. A beat. She was right about most things, I said. Her future mother-in-law called me that afternoon, warm, prepared. There'd been a miscommunication. She hadn't realized how involved I'd been. She was so sorry if I'd felt excluded. I let her finish. I don't feel excluded, I said. I am excluded. There's a board in that venue with 15 names on it, and mine isn't one of them. Jill, that board is purely decorative. It isn't decorative. It's a statement about who mattered. I kept my voice flat and even. I have one condition. My daughter's godmother gets a seat at the rehearsal dinner, and my wife's sister gets a seat. 2 chairs. That's it. We'll see what we can do. That's not what I said. She hung up. For 6 days I heard nothing. My daughter called twice. I picked up both times. Her future mother-in-law was working on it. I told my daughter I understood, and that my offer had a deadline, and the deadline was the rehearsal dinner. The deadline passed. The night of the rehearsal dinner, I was home. I want you to have the exact picture. It was a Friday evening in late April, 7:20, and I was replacing the bathroom faucet I had been putting off for a year. My bathroom. My faucet. The plumber's pipes always need work because the plumber never gets to his own house. I had both handles off and the escutcheon on the edge of the tub when my phone buzzed on the vanity. Everything I'm about to tell you, I got from my daughter afterward, and from 3 other people over the weeks that followed. 40 people were seated in the loft above the hall, the same hall my name was on the contract for. Long tables, string lights, tall windows looking out over the lawn. The contributors' board from the group chat photo was mounted on an easel near the top of the stairs. 15 names, gold lettering, lit from below. My daughter's future mother-in-law was standing near the head table, glass in one hand, about to speak. Fern Alcott came up the stairs with her binder. She is not a woman who apologizes for her binder. She stood near the top step and waited for a break in the conversation. When one didn't come naturally, she created one. I'm sorry to interrupt. I need a replacement responsible party designation on file before Monday. The 10 business days expired at 5 o'clock this evening. My daughter's future mother-in-law recovered fast. She is very good at recovering fast. Fern, we can absolutely handle that first thing Monday morning. I need it now, with proof of financial capacity. Someone at the back table, my future son-in-law's uncle, I was told later, said designation for what exactly? Fern opened her binder on the corner of the nearest table. She put on her reading glasses. She read the line the way a notary reads a line. No editorializing, no inflection, just the words as printed. Financially responsible party. Balance and damages under the contract. She looked up. The party of record as of today is Gil Harmon. A woman near the window said, "Who's Gil Harmon?" My daughter quietly, "My father." The room shifted. My daughter's future mother-in-law recovered. "He signed as a courtesy," she said to the room, with the confidence of someone who has explained building code violations to buyers for 20 years. "Just for the paperwork. He hasn't put anything into this wedding." My future son-in-law stood up. He doesn't raise his voice. He got that from somewhere good. He took his phone from his jacket pocket, unlocked it, and set it face up in the center of the table. Then he turned it so the screen faced the room. "That's the wire transfer," he said. "March 22nd, $31,040. Nobody moved. He liquidated savings bonds my future mother-in-law collected for 24 years. One at a time, she marked them for my wife's future. He paused. "His name's not on that board." He was on the contract. He picked up the phone. He put it back in his jacket. The playlist kept going. Someone should have turned it off. Nobody did. A woman near the back. Someone my daughter said she recognized from a real estate firm. Her future mother-in-law had mentioned in the group chat, leaned forward and studied the contributors' board on the easel. Then she looked at the table layout next to it. She said it mildly, the way you'd ask what time the event ends. "Is this the full seating? Because I count 8 people from our office, and none of them are contributors to anything except deals we've closed together." My daughter's future mother-in-law said, "That was an ugly thing to say." The woman said, "I'm asking who made the guest list." The room went the kind of quiet that happens when 40 people all decide at the same moment not to be the next one to speak. 3 people at the far end of the table got their things, not dramatically. They stood up the way people leave when the reason they came has already passed, quietly reaching for a jacket, checking a phone as an excuse to look away. My daughter's future mother-in-law kept talking about the ceremony timing, the shuttle from the hotel, the seating for the following day. My daughter said not one person in that room was listening. Not really. I was 11 miles away. I had just gotten the new faucet seated and was running water to check for drips when my phone rang. It was my future son-in-law. He had never called me directly before. "Sir," he said. I turned off the tap. He told me the whole thing in about 2 minutes, out of order, circling back fast. Fern on the stairs, the binder, his own voice when he stood up, the phone on the table, the woman from the real estate firm asking about the guest list. When he finished, he said, "I didn't know. About the money, I want you to know that." "I know you didn't," I said. "She didn't either." "Why didn't you say something?" I sat down on the edge of the tub, because that's how I do things. My wife spent 27 years telling me it was wrong. I looked at the new faucet, water running clean and steady. She was right. He was quiet on the line. "Get some sleep," I said. "It's going to be a long few days." The venue released the date the following Monday at 9 in the morning. The deposit was forfeit under Section 12 of the contract, $8,400, non-refundable inside 90 days. I had known that when I sent Fern's email. I wrote the number in my notebook that night, not to keep score, because I needed to look at it until it stopped feeling like something I owed an apology for. I want to be careful here, because this is the part where a man in my position is supposed to feel like he won something. I didn't make one phone call. I didn't post anything anywhere. I have never said one word about my daughter's future mother-in-law to a person who knew her. I've had chances living where I live, running into people I run into. Every consequence that came her way came from decisions she made in a room I wasn't in. If you've ever been the one person holding a line while everyone around you calls you the problem, hit like so I know this room isn't empty. And tell me in the comments, when did you stop explaining yourself? All right, back to it. My daughter and her fiancé rescheduled 7 weeks later. In Lou's backyard, which he offered without being asked, the way Lou always does things, by just saying the yard's yours if you want it, and not making it into anything bigger than that. 38 people, folding chairs borrowed from the VFW hall on Route 9. A tent my future son-in-law and 2 of his friends put up the morning of the wedding and took down the following day. Food catered by a woman from our church, who has made the same potato casserole at every potluck for 30 years, and who my daughter has loved since she was 6 years old. Total cost, and I know because my daughter showed me the receipt without being asked, $4,900. No contributors board, no gold lettering. Nobody asked who paid for what. My daughter told me later, she didn't think the thought crossed a single mind out there. My daughter's future mother-in-law came. She was invited by her son, and she came and she sat in the third row in a nice gray dress, and she was quiet the entire afternoon. Not repentant. I've never once believed it was repentance. There was just nobody there to perform for. 38 people in a friend's backyard, and not one of them was going to hire an interior designer, so she sat. She held her program. She watched the ceremony with her hands folded in her lap, and that was all it was. But it was permanent, and I've decided that's enough. My wife's sister flew in from Portland. She sat in the second row and cried through the whole ceremony and wasn't embarrassed about it, and I was glad she was there. My daughter's godmother caught the bouquet and pretended she hadn't been trying for it. Lou mowed the lawn twice the week before. He never mentioned it. My daughter asked me to say something at dinner. She sprung it on me, which she did on purpose, which is something her mother used to do. I stood up with a paper cup of sweet tea, and 38 people looked at me, and I understood in about 1 second why my wife always did this part. I said 4 things. I said to my daughter, "You chose well. Your mother would have told you that on day 1, which is one of about 1,000 ways she was better at this than me. I'm telling you now." I said to my son-in-law, "You stood up in a room where it cost you something. That's the only thing I needed to see." Said to Lou, "Thank you for the yard, and for the coffee you brought me every time you heard something was wrong, and for 33 years of knowing when to talk and when not to." Then I stopped, because the thing I needed to say next was the kind of thing I had never said out loud in my life. I looked at the table with my daughter's godmother, and my wife's sister, and my neighbor from Prentice Street, who came because my daughter invited her, and she never misses anything. "My wife bought savings bonds," I said, "every year since our daughter was born. One at a time, she marked them for Delia's future. She never told me, found them after she died. I cashed them this spring, and sent the money to a venue I eventually took it back from. I reached into my jacket and set a folded piece of paper on the table in front of my daughter. That's a joint account. Half is the bonds. Half is the roof money I've been sitting on for 2 years. The roof can wait." My daughter picked it up. She looked at it for a long moment. "Dad," she said. "Your mother saved that money so you'd have a future," I said. "I figure a marriage counts." My wife's sister put her hand flat on the table. Lou looked at the grass. My neighbor said something low and soft that might have been a prayer. My son-in-law looked at his wife, and she was still holding the piece of paper with both hands. I sat down. That was the first time in my life I had stood up in a room full of people and said out loud what I had done. 52 years old. It took maybe 15 seconds. I don't know why it took me that long to understand that the quiet wasn't humility. It was just leaving the pen on the table and walking away, and letting whoever picked it up write whatever they wanted. I got home a little after 10. I came in through the side door. I hung my jacket. I put my keys in the dish. Then I did one thing before bed. I went to the fireproof box under the bed. The bonds were gone. Spent, redeemed, turned into something. But there was a photograph in an envelope I'd moved there after my wife died. The two of them, my wife and my daughter, on a porch in summer. My wife laughing at something off camera, the way she always was when the best moment was the one nobody planned. I took it out and set it on the kitchen counter where I'd see it in the morning. Here's where I've landed, and then I'll let you go. I still do things quietly. That hasn't changed, and it isn't going to change. When Lou's water heater went out in February, I replaced it on a Sunday without telling him I was coming. When the woman on Prentice Street needed her porch rail fixed, I fixed it. That's who I am, and it's not a flaw. But I'm done doing it quietly, and then being surprised when nobody knows. That woman with the contributors board understood something I had forgotten, maybe never knew in the first place. If you don't tell your own story, someone else will. And they will tell it in whatever way serves them best. She wrote my story as hasn't put in a dime. 2 words, clean, useful, wrong. It worked because there was nothing else written anywhere to contradict it. I left the pen on the table for 27 years. I left it there because my wife was holding it. When she was gone, I didn't pick it up. I just walked away and let someone else write my name however they wanted. My daughter called me last Sunday. She and her husband are under contract on a house. She wanted my opinion on the inspection report, the foundation photos, the age of the furnace, what to watch out for. I told her what I knew. I told her the roof looked honest, and the furnace was about the right age. And there was something in those foundation photos she should have a structural engineer look at before they closed. She asked how I knew all this stuff. Because your mother used to make me read reports out loud, I said. She said she understood things better when she heard them. A pause. I didn't know that, she said. There's a lot you don't know, I said. I'm working on that. When someone tells you that you haven't contributed, don't argue about the money. Go find out who's holding the contract. That's usually where the real story is. And it's almost always a shorter conversation than you expect.